Good morning, everyone. Welcome to ElliiCon 2023, day 2. If you were here yesterday, welcome back. If it's your first day, welcome. My name is Ben Buckwold. I'm the founder at Ellii, and it's so great to see you. Yesterday, we had a really great day. There are more than 2,200 people who have registered for ElliiCon. And as I was saying yesterday, we're a small business of just 35 people, and it makes us feel so proud and great to have so many people from all over the world joining us at ElliiCon. There's people from more than 112 countries. Last year I read out, or maybe it was the year before, I can't remember, I read out all of the countries. I'm not going to do that this year. We've got a lot to cover in this session, so I want to make sure that I save the time for the actual session part. But I just wanted to welcome everybody and say how happy we are to have so many people from around the world. I also just wanted to touch briefly before we go into this next session about sort of the format of this conference. We're trying to achieve a couple of goals. One, we're trying to bring the community together, the global teaching community together. It's always been a tight community, the teaching community around the world, the English language teaching community, right since the early days of the internet, when there were just like forums and stuff like that, pre-Google, all that stuff. There was always a community, a really nice community of English teachers on the world, around the world, online, and we want to play some part in keeping that going in some way. So this conference is about community, about meeting people, about friendships, and about learning from one another. So we want to continue doing it for that reason. Another goal we have in mind is just to bring in great speakers from around the world. And we have 6 great speakers who we're really fortunate to have joining us yesterday and today. They are experts in their own fields, and they're going to give us insight into being better teachers. And so that's another goal. And the third goal is just to have some fun here over the next couple of days. But in terms of the format, we do a couple of things. One, we do these kind of informal coffee talks like the one you just saw, and one I'm about to do right now with our Chief Technical Officer, Eduardo, in just a minute or two. So we do those informal coffee talks. And then we also do one session a day on Ellii itself, just how to use the platform with some tips and tricks. And then we do these actual sessions with the guests, these expert guests that we've brought in. And between sessions, we do the table talks where you can join a table and meet and mingle with other people, meet the presenters, or go and meet some of the people from Ellii. So I hope that sort of gives some insight into how this platform works and how the conference works. Okay, with that said, today we're going to be talking a little bit about the behind the scenes for us with respect to AI at Ellii. We've got a lot to think about with respect to AI at Ellii, and I want to bring on our Chief Technical Officer who's sort of heading up all of those initiatives, Eduardo. There he is. Welcome, Eduardo. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Nice to see
you.
Hi,
everyone. Nice to see you and see everyone.
Eduardo, you're normally based, you're from Brazil, but you moved to Canada about 6-7 years ago. You live in Calgary, and you're not in Calgary now, you're in Montreal?
Montreal.
Yeah,
correct.
Just for a short visit. Yeah, and I'm going to see you next week in Montreal, so I'm looking forward to that. If anybody here is from Montreal, put that note in the comments there as well. So Eduardo, I wanted to touch a little bit on your initiatives with respect to the product team at Ellii and some of the things that you're working on with AI. Before I start to sort of ask you some of these questions, I wanted to talk to our audience and just say how we're feeling, like what's in our heart with respect to AI at Ellii. So, there's obviously the potential for it to replace all of us as teachers. And that's a scary thing. And we're seeing more and more of these types of tools pop up all the time that are just sort of direct to student AI bots that you can communicate with as a student and learn language. We're not focused on that. We think that there is some opportunity for some of that and some practice opportunity. We're going to talk about that a little bit towards the end of this. But we're really focused. We've always been a platform for teachers, by teachers. And we're really focused on creating tools that make it simpler for you to teach. And it's no different when we look at AI. We start to see AI as an opportunity to help make teachers more prepared, better informed, better planners of their classes, and better presenters or administrators of their courses as well. So we've tried to take that initiative over everything else. How can we just use AI to our advantage to make everybody more prepared, better teachers, more informed. So I want to ask Eduardo, you about some of the initiatives we're working on. Maybe I can start to, maybe you can just sort of highlight the 3 things that we're working on, then we'll go into each one of those.
Okay, amazing. So at Ellii, we've been using AI in 3 main ways so far. We have plans for more, but right now we have the recommendation section, which we use AI behind the scenes. We have the auto scoring feature, and we're now working on something new called Class Insights. So I'm excited to talk about all of them.
Yeah, and so for recommendations, a problem that we have at Ellii is the more content we've added, the more materials we've added. We started 21 years ago with just 40 lessons, and now there's more than 2,000 lessons on the site. The more lessons there are, the more sort of overwhelming it is to find, what's the right material to teach tomorrow. I taught this today. What should I teach tomorrow? There's sometimes too much choice. So Eduardo, talk to me a little bit about some of the initiatives that you have around recommendations and how we've used AI to give these types of recommendations.
Yeah, so this is the problem we wanted to tackle, is how can we give teachers relevant content to them in this sea of content we have in the platform. Basically, this was our first initiative, and it's been live for almost 2 years now. And we've started with this way before ChatGPT. So we built our own model, and it is what we called a hybrid model. So we're using 2 very popular algorithms. That one is content-based recommendation, and the other is collaborative filtering. So what does that mean? 2 difficult names. What does that mean? Content-based recommendation, we are looking at the details of a class. So if you go to any class on Ellii and you go to the details tab, you can set the level, the age group, and the focus of your class. So we're getting that information and we're matching with our content, with the content that was tagged by our own team. And this way we can know which content is relevant to your class. On the other hand, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to ask a question on that, but I'll come back to it. Go ahead.
Okay. So collaborative filtering is a little bit different. So we're looking at the greater picture, and we're trying to find patterns in the way teachers use the content. So for example, if a large number of teachers assign lessons A, B, and C to their classes, and a new teacher comes on and they assign lessons A and B, we know that there's a great probability that that teacher might also be interested in lesson C. So we merge these 2 strategies, and that's how we can suggest content that is relevant to a class.
Okay, that's really neat. And then are we also working on something along the lines of, I guess, based on how students are doing? So maybe it might be looking at, most of your class seems to be struggling on this grammar structure or this skill, like a reading, but they seem to be doing better somewhere else. And then can recommend content based on one of the skills, language skills, or a particular grammar structure. Is that also coming into play?
Yes, so this is what we're researching right now, is how to also include the student's performance or the class performance into this mix, so we can fine tune the recommendations even better.
So, okay, that's great. So, I mean, I just want to bring something back, and I'm going to keep hitting on this point, I think, is that these recommendations and everything that we're really doing with AI is meant more as like, these are suggestions. These are, maybe to try to take some obstacles out of the way, or to give some insights, some ideas, always with the intention or the understanding that these might be ignored. These recommendations might be ignored. We might be getting them wrong, but really we're putting them up in front of the teacher so that the teacher can make a choice. Yeah, that actually seems right. That seems like the right thing to do tomorrow. Or it recommended this to me, but you know what? I've seen other things in the class that maybe AI has not seen. And therefore, it doesn't know as well as I know in the classroom that actually is not right for tomorrow. So it's important to keep in mind that, like, what we're building, I think, is stuff to aid and assist a teacher, but it's not meant to be the be all and end all. And that's really important, I think, for language teachers or any teacher, to not just necessarily fall back on AI as the default and to trust their own instinct most of the time.
Absolutely. I think we're going to be hitting on this key many times today, and in all of every time we mention AI at Ellii, that everything we're trying to do is to not dictate what the teacher should do, but more suggest and bring insights to the surface so the teacher can make better informed decisions and use it if they want to.
Awesome. Okay, so let's move on to auto scoring because we also want to talk about insights too. A lot to talk about in the next 20 minutes. So tell me about auto scoring. I presume there's a problem before you actually tell me how it works. I presume I know there's a problem in that oftentimes there's like open-ended questions where a teacher can't necessarily get to or have the time to score and grade. And so we've had some issues around auto scoring. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we all know how one of the most time-consuming tasks for teachers are grading student work. And we have different types of tasks at Ellii. So we have multiple choice tasks and true or false questions that are easy for the system to grade. We know there's a correct answer and that's it. Now for open-ended questions, you might have questions that are more opinion-based. So for example, what is your opinion on topic X? And that one might have the teacher might have a subjective, or the scoring might be subjective. So it's harder for us to grade. Now, if it's a comprehension question after a dialogue, for example, we know there's a correct answer, but the student might present this or type this or even say in a speaking task, say this in slightly different ways that are all correct. So it's not as simple as just comparing the answers and knowing if it's correct or not. So in this case, we decided on a different approach, which is comparing how similar semantically the student answer is to the suggested answer by the Ellii team. And we're using another AI model for that. And again, that's prior to ChatGPT, but it's a different kind of AI model that basically we ask it, can you please? That's that would be a good question for an Ellii poll, like just like you showed yesterday. Do you say please and thank you to ChatGPT? Yeah. Do you, Ben?
I do, yeah, I do. Yeah, do you?
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah,
but I think it's not that
important. If we don't do that, we're going to stop doing it to humans. But anyways, carry on.
Exactly. So we get a score how similar this answer is semantically to the suggested answer. And that is the answer that we are, again, we're not saying that should be the score. We're suggesting that this could be a score for a teacher. And it's up for the teacher to decide if they want to use the suggestion or not.
Yeah, that's what I really like about it. It gives some insight. It says, this is what I think is the score. But ultimately, the teacher will say, yeah, I agree with that score and just can submit it or can adjust it, right, and change it. But it's taking some of that load off of the teacher, and it's helping them it's moving them along a little bit, but still putting the control in the teacher's hands to make the final decision and to come back and adjust that score. And I think that's really, really important that because otherwise, if the system's just recommending everything and it's grading everything, it gets to a point where you know very little about what's going on with your students. It's really important that you look at those recommendations and then you make the informed decision. Okay, so let's move on to insights. And this is one that is exciting to me because it's a newer one that you're working on. So we have, from my perspective, there's more and more data being thrust at us all the time. I don't understand most data when I see it on these charts and these graphs and stuff. But I also think that data, when you're seeing it in charts and graphs, and it can steer you in one direction. It can make you think something that's not necessarily true. So, for example, if it shows you that this particular student just is always getting a bad score, it doesn't necessarily tell the whole picture. And you might start focusing just on that student, but for the wrong reasons. You're just looking at a number. And so tell me a little bit about the class insights that you're working on, Eduardo, and how that sort of differentiates from a traditional like data board.
Yeah, so it's funny that I've had the pleasure of meeting teachers at the tables yesterday and earlier today, and one of the things I heard the most was um, an AI teaching assistant, and that's exactly what we're trying to achieve right now with this new feature that we're calling Class Insights. So basically, imagine in summary having an AI teaching assistant that will look at your class, look at your assignments, look at your students, and give you a brief summary in plain English. And this is the benefit over having, as you said, a chart, which is, okay, you need to actually take your time to understand what's happening. You need to look at the different columns. You need to, sometimes it's not as easy to extract the information or the insights that you're looking for right now. So we're building this on top of OpenAI's GPT-4, and it's basically a weekly summary that you can quickly catch up and understand what's happening with your class at a glance. I have a screenshot. Should I share it now? This feature is not live.
Sorry?
This feature is not live yet, by the way. Okay. We're in the final testing, but it will be soon. So I'm just gonna quickly share my screen just to give you a visual.
Just before you share it, just for reference, this screenshot that you're about to show is inside of a class. So at Ellii, you can set up classes, you can put your students into those classes, and you can move materials along and assign them to your students within the class. And right now, I think we're going to be looking at a class inside of a class, and you've opened up a modal with a message to your students, or to your teacher, to yourself, about your students. Correct? That's where we are?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, imagine you are logging into Ellii Monday morning and you're catching up to your class and deciding what to do next. So this is what you will see. Here. Okay. Is it the font large enough that we can read?
I think it is. But by the way, everybody, if you can't see it that well, up in the top right corner, there's a little square. If you mouse over your screen, there's a little square with 4 arrows in each corner, and you can click that and enlarge too.
I think I also managed to enlarge it a little bit, so that might be better. Okay. So of course, a task class, and all names and activities are all done by myself using student accounts, so we can test this feature. So imagine that you land here and you read this. So Amir has been constantly participating in the lessons, although he didn't complete the ocean garbage activity. His last login to the platform was on September 5th. Carlos hasn't participated in any activity during the past week, and his last login was on August 29th. Kenzo, on the other hand, has been actively engaged in the lessons and successfully completed the distracted driving activity on September 12th, with a final score of 88%. Lastly, Christina has not been included in the activity list, so there's no data available for her performance. Overall, it seems that Kenzo is doing well, while Amir could benefit from some extra support to catch up missing activities. It would be helpful to reach out to Carlos to understand the reason for his lack of participation.
Yeah, and so, I mean, reading something like this once a week, you come into your class or you open up your class and you've got a message like this. It's a very different experience than seeing sort of these line charts and graphs about who's doing what. It can be very misleading to see those other types of charts. This gives you a sort of like it's a conversation, and then you can make you can make up your own sort of decision based on that. You can maybe disagree with that. You can take into account that, oh yeah, I hadn't noticed that one thing that you just mentioned. I should be thinking about that. But it talks to you in plain language. It communicates with you some of the key information that is out there. And yes, sometimes those line charts or graphs are important to just get a bird's eye view of like the actual scores and everything. But this is real communication, and it's giving real insight into the class, and you can do with it what you want. You can accept that information as being valid, or you can say, no, you know what, I'm going to think differently a little bit here. But the point is it's making an observation about the data, and it's its own opinion.
Exactly. So I love following.
Go ahead.
Awesome. I see some positive feedback on the chat too. I love that. I think, again, as you mentioned, Ben, and I probably mentioned already, ultimately, we're not dictating what the teacher should do because we're just bringing insights to the surface. There's way more data is important, and this data is basically already available in the platform. The only thing we're doing is we're compiling this in plain English and bringing it to a easy to consume way.
Yeah.
But there's way more, and at Ellii, this is what we believe when we talk about AI and technology is there's way more to teaching than data and than to just technology. There's the human connection, and there's this human feeling that only teachers will have with their students, and they're gonna know what their students know, what their students want, or what their students need best,
Right.
than just data and indicators.
So, and just one question on how this response is coming back. You're writing prompts. You're using an API behind the scenes to talk to ChatGPT, and you're writing prompts, and you're asking it to do certain things for you. So, what's sort of an example of a prompt behind the scenes that we're sending to ChatGPT?
So that was probably the biggest challenge in this feature, and everything is about the prompt engineering. So we had to craft different prompts for different sizes of classes. So if your class is a 101, the prompt is going to give different information because we just need just the right amount of information. If we use the same kind of prompt for all class types, then the result is not, I don't know, refined enough.
Yeah.
So we're creating different prompts and using different prompts for different types of classes.
Okay, yeah. So if you're teaching one-on-one to a private student, obviously the prompt is not going. It's going to look and see there's only one student in there. So don't send prompts about comparing students from one to the other. Send it more about just about that student. So okay, it's very interesting. There's one other thing we want to touch on, and I do want to try to get one question in. So if we can just talk maybe 2 minutes on the self-study stuff that role plays that Nick Peachy was talking about, and that you have your own initiative on. For a minute or two, and then we'll dive in and maybe grab a question or two, because I think, and Lise could come back in then. I'm sure there are some questions that popped up. Tell me a little bit about what you're working on with respect to role plays.
Okay, so for those of you who were here yesterday, you probably heard Nick talk about the role plays and how you can kind of create a prompt that initiates a role play activity inside ChatGPT. So we are looking to bring that to Ellii, inside Ellii. So you don't need to leave the platform, and your students can practice this role plays inside Ellii with preset, or we're gonna probably create an index with different kinds of prompts and different kind of role play scenarios that you can quickly browse and send this to your students. We're working on this. This is really exciting. We're super happy, and just the positive feedback that and the messages on the chat I saw yesterday while Nick was presenting, it was the final approval that we needed to just go ahead and finish this project.
So I'm really excited about that, and I want to make my own point about this. I think that type of opportunity for practicing, it wasn't good a year ago or further back. It's only really gotten good in the last year or so, or great, or really worthwhile. And I think it is beneficial to be able to just like carry on these like random conversations on different scenarios by yourself, because you don't always have this opportunity to practice. So it gives you opportunity to practice. So I really like that part of it. But at the same time, you know, if that's all that students end up doing, that's a risk. And so that's why at Ellii, we often focus on paired and group interaction, things that bring humans together to talk and communicate with one another, because it doesn't matter how much time you spend practicing speaking to a robot and how good that robot is at communicating, you're still not learning to speak in another language to an actual human being, where there's facial expressions, where there's different types of emotion. And that's really important in the language learning process. So there needs to be this balance where students can practice with role plays, with an AI tool like you're building. And then it's important that in the classroom, there's opportunity for paired and group interaction with either teacher to student or student to student. So we want to keep that balance too. And I think that's part of our mandate here at Ellii.
Absolutely. Can I just touch on something quick that's really important that I don't want to leave this
touch on that, and then when you're done,
touching?
these will hop in.
Yeah. So privacy. So I know that there's a lot of concern around privacy and what data goes where. So I just want to mention that we, of course, have the same kind of responsibility that we always have with privacy. So we're not sending any confidential data to OpenAI or to any external AIs. We are, and this is another challenge we had to face, and we're working on making sure that we don't send anything real. We mask and we anonymize everything that leaves our servers. So when he basically, the AI will calculate and will spit out this insight or this paragraph with fake names that we know which student relate to each fake name. And when it comes back, we replace with the real student names. So you're going to be able to see all the data with the correct real information, but that's just inside the Ellii secure servers. And everything that leaves is always anonymized. So there's no confidential data being shared anywhere.
That's great. Yeah, it's really important. Okay, well, thanks for sharing that. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. I wasn't looking in the chat that much. So Lise, if you were, and if you saw anything in the questions, there's both chat and there's questions. The questions are the best place to put something to be noticed as opposed to the chat tool. But Lise, did anything come up? Is there anything that somebody wants to ask?
Yeah, lots came up. People were chatting away in the chat, and we've got a bunch of questions. We might have time for one if you'd like to answer one question.
Let's put it up.
Okay, this one is our top rated question, and it looks like it's directed at Eduardo, but I'm sure, Ben, you can jump in as well. It says, I'd like to know if Eduardo believes that AI should be added to curriculums of graduation in the educational areas. So should teachers have tech classes on AI to help them, essentially?
Should I take this one?
Yeah, go for it.
I believe it's important to understand what's out there. And I think this is a revolution that, like any other technology, it's coming and it's going to be part of our lives, whether we want it or not. So I don't think in the same way, for example, everyone uses a phone, but not all of us know exactly how the phone service or like the internals of a phone work. We don't need to know how AI works behind the scenes, but we need to know what kind of tools, and as like we, I mean everyone, educators, students, and I think population in general, I think everyone, we need to know what's available and what's happening and how to use these tools to our advantage.
Nicely put. Ben, anything to add on that?
No, I agree with that. So let's take another question if there is time, and if not, then
we are running pretty short on time. So I think I'm going to ask everyone, if you didn't get your questions answered now, please make your way over to the presenter table, and you can talk to Eduardo and Ben there. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So just a few. Yes. Ben, any last words?
No. Sorry, I was going to just turn it over.
Okay, so just a quick few reminders for me before we move on. Make sure you complete that event attendee survey. We are drawing a prize for a 1-year Ellii subscription at the end of the day. So you should find that in the survey tab. It only takes 3 minutes. Find time to do that. Lots of other ways to win great prizes as well. You can find the link for that in the chat. And let's just quickly take a look at our leaderboard. I believe that we recalculated it so that we now have some new people. If you take a look in the chat there, you should see the current ranking of our top 3 participants. So you are getting points throughout this conference for how you participate, asking questions, sending emojis, updating your profile. So make sure you take a look at that tab that says Earn Points to find out how you can be earning more points. And at the end of the day, we will give prizes away for the top 3. That's 3 months, 6 months, and a 1-year subscription to Ellii. Yes, Eduardo.
Hi, before we leave, I just want to say, yeah, it was a pleasure being here talking. it's amazing to meet teachers and see the people who are actually using the platform. I'm working every day with the engineering team, with the technical team at Ellii, and just talking to you and hearing all the feedback and hearing what you like and what you don't like is really important for us. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity of being here. And thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
you,
Eduardo.
everyone. Okay.
Yes, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. So everyone, we've got 15-minute break now. Please grab a seat at one of those tables. Ben and Eduardo will be at our presenter table. And we also have Anna and Shaylin from the Teacher Think Aloud podcast here with us again today, so you can go and talk to them as well. Coming up next, we've got Russell Stannard. So make sure you stick around and we'll see you back in 15 minutes. Bye, everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Ellii.